Hey everybody, Chuck Barone. Friday, April the 14th, 2023. Let's wrap up this week. What a crazy week it's been, man. This market whipsawing all over the place. Almost hour to hour, man. It's one day it's like, wow, it looks like things are getting better. The next second somebody's talking, something happens, and boom, everything turns around. It's just been crazy. What a ride, man. Like the wildest roller coaster ride ever, just bananas. But anyway, before we start the show, I want to welcome everybody. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you guys watching these videos. What you guys do for us every day means the world to us, guys. Keeps us going here. We appreciate it. Markets today. Well, not a great day for the markets today, guys. And surprisingly, really, with the data that came in today, there was not really a lot of negative news in the data. But the market's reacting negatively anyway, where good news is bad news, I guess. Market's down across the board. Dow Jones down 143 points, 33,886. S&P down 8 points, 4137. NASDAQ down 42 points, 12,123. So, I mean, these numbers, not really earth-shattering numbers, but just... And even though the Dow ends down today, has a winning week and a decent week for stocks, but the surprise was, we got data today that was fairly positive, showing things are moving the way the Fed wants them to, and the market reacting pretty negatively to that. The bond market also selling off today with yields up again. The 10-year up 7 basis points to 3.52%. The 2-year jumps 11 basis points to 4.09%. So the bond market and the stock market both down today. The dollar up, pretty much picks up what it lost yesterday. 101.56 on the index, and there it sits. Correction, yesterday I said that all-time high of the dollar was 109. I must have got that number in my head somewhere. Was corrected by one of our viewers, 114. So even bigger come down from there. 114 to 109 is a giant come down. From 114 to 101 and change, well, you can see the dollar's been eroding away as far as its strength. But with the dollar up today, precious metals, gold and silver down. Gold giving back $34.50 today, $2,005.60 per ounce. Silver giving back 45 cents today, $25.36 per ounce. The nice news is they both held support. Gold's still above 2,000. Silver's still above 25. So these were, even though down days, not the worst kind of down day. Support holds there, which is a real positive sign for, gold and silver moving forward. As I've been saying, I really believe that a bull market now is kind of on in gold and silver. I really expect to see some pretty dramatic increases coming for both gold and silver. I think gold will have its run first. When it gets a little too pricey and all the working people in the world decide they want in on precious metals, they look at gold for over 2,000 an ounce. They look at silver for 25. They don't have thousands of dollars to invest, so they end up buying ounces of silver, which then drives demand for silver higher, driving prices up. I think gold and silver are ready for a pretty strong run here. Oil today, basically gaining back what it gave back yesterday, up 48 cents per barrel, $82.64 for a barrel of West Texas Intermediate. Not much happening in oil today. It was interesting. We got a lot of consumer data today, retail sales data, and gasoline came down. Gasoline sales are down 5.5% from last month. So demand for gas coming down. Supply not really scarce anywhere. So I think that oil might be due for a little bit of a correction, not a big move down, but I think it's going to come back down under $80 per barrel. I think that that 75 to 80 range is probably where it should be right now, maybe even actually a little less than that if demand continues to fall. We're going to watch that closely because that affects gas prices, which affect us all. So hopefully we'll see oil come down a little bit. Bitcoin today up very small today, $24, not much of a move. $30,357 for Bitcoin, holding strong, man. Bitcoin in a very good position right now. I know a lot of you guys are real believers, a lot of real investors believe Bitcoin is the future. A lot of you guys listening to this are real skeptics. We all have to admit a move from 16,000 to 30,000 is nothing to make a sneeze at here, guys. And holding those numbers pretty consistently in the face of some negative news on the economy, watching the stock market go down, Bitcoin holding steady. So I think Bitcoin's in a pretty good place right now. Now, news you guys need. Well, you'll remember when we left off yesterday, we saw the inflation numbers coming down. We saw the unemployment numbers going up. So we were saying that bank earnings, which are going to come out today, especially from the three bigs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citibank, we said if they could get good bank earnings, that basically is hitting the trifecta for the Fed this week, and all signs point to what they've been trying to do, maybe not working as quickly as we all would like, but nonetheless, moving the numbers the way the Fed wants them to, right? Well, anyway, JP Morgan, Citi, and Wells Fargo all come out with good earnings reports today. Upbeat stuff, super strong earnings. JP Morgan especially leading the market today. Now, when you finish that trifecta, so now you got inflation coming down, especially that PPI number. We'll see what that looks like next month. You got unemployment numbers going up, cooling the labor market, probably cooling wage increases with it. Now you got these earnings showing banks didn't suffer so much in the first quarter, even though we know that they're in these weird positions with their reserves. We know, but they're earning money. So reserves aren't a big thing. I don't expect to see a run of withdrawals at JP Morgan. So I think that this shows that the big banks are in pretty good shape. The regionals, well, they're still a little bit shaky. But this is a great week for the Fed. Inflation coming down, even though it's still too high. Let's say it like it is, guys. 5% is nowhere near the target they're looking for. But the economy still showing signs of resiliency, man. Hanging in there. This economy is pretty tough, man. I got to give hey, you got to say it like it is. So now, all of this clears the way for the Federal Reserve to raise rates again on May the 3rd. I've been saying I really believe and have believed they're going to continue to raise rates. So we'll get that quarter point on May the 3rd. That'll bring the Fed funds rate up to 5.10%, higher than the last reported CPI, higher than the personal consumption index, that the personal consumption expenditure index that the Fed uses. So we'll finally, after about a year or so, have interest rates higher than the rate of inflation, which will also help push those numbers down. So I think that, overall, all things considered, things are okay right now, guys. I mean, real estate still sucks, and there are certain sectors of the economy that are not doing very well. But it looks like, without completely crashing the economy to get these inflation numbers down, it looks like the medicine's starting to work. We'll see if it can continue to. We'll see if there's a relapse. We'll see if there's any other, outside factors, so many of them, that can make this market move. But all in all, the Federal Reserve, I love complaining about them on their schmucks, and they seem to do that a lot. But when they're doing okay, you got to give them props for that. And it seems to me like, things are moving the direction the Fed wants them to. Now, we also got retail sales today. Retail sales. Now, not all the good news was great news, right? So retail sales falling 1% in March, a pretty big decline, much higher. They expected flat numbers, coming in much higher than, the decline much bigger than they thought it would be. Consumers are worn down, man. High inflation, big debt. They're just tired. And now they're starting to be taking a page from the advice we've been giving you guys for so long, being much more selective shoppers. The impulse stuff that people buy, phones and electronics and clothes and stuff like that, all coming, sales in that coming down. Even gasoline, which was one of the biggest down, 5.5% on gasoline. Food demand coming down. So, these higher prices, this inflation, starting to bite consumers. Wouldn't be long before, these sales start to come down because people are maxing out credit now. You can only do so much on credit. So retail sales hitting the dumpster. It's really, that number, we'll see what it looks like. Again, I'm always looking for confirmation on these numbers. So we'll see how this looks next month. If consumer sales continue down, well, now we got to start looking at recession because consumers, 70% of the economy in the United States. Industrial production, another data we got today, industrial production almost doubles estimates. They were expecting the production to rise 0.2% month over month. It comes in at 0.4%, doubling the expectations. They actually had upward revision for last month's industrial production numbers. So this is another encouraging sign for the economy. Most of these factories don't make stuff unless there's demand for it. So it looks like, again, another sign the economy is hanging in there. We also got the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, and this is an important gauge, guys, rising from 62 to 63.5%. Consumers feeling a little more optimistic about their own prospects and the prospects for the economy. Analysts had expected that number to be zeroed out. It's coming in at 62 again. It had for the last 2 months. So this is a pretty big number, pretty big jump for them. And the interesting thing about this, I've read a little bit of the detail in what consumers were thinking. Well, the last month when they took the sentiment, people expected a year from now the inflation to be at 3.6. This latest survey, they now expect inflation a year from now to be at 4.6, which is not very different from where it is according to the last CPI numbers. So it looks like consumers feeling a little more negative about the state of inflation, which is probably a good thing. The contrarian in me always wants to believe that when the public believes one thing, especially in big numbers, the opposite is probably true. So we'll keep following this as well. How are you guys feeling about the economy? Are you feeling like, your own personal situation is good? Are you feeling like your own personal situation is stable? Are you doing better this year than you did last year? It's interesting. I'd like to have our own, Chuck Barone consumer sentiment survey here. Tell me, what do you guys think? Is the economy going good? Is your personal economy going good? How are things at home? Where do you think inflation is going to be a year from now? I really think 4.6 might be a little high a year from now. But we'll have to see how the Fed behaves. I think that the market is really pricing in a pivot after this increase on the May the 3rd. If that happens, well, maybe inflation rate stays where it is because they're not going to be doing much to knock it down. And finally, the real mover of markets today, Fed President Waller, coming out. I'm going to read you this quote directly, guys, because it's a real nice one. He said, let me get my peepers on. Waller said further monetary policy tightening is needed to bring down inflation. Waller said Friday at the Gray Bar National Training Conference, noting that little progress had been made toward the central bank's 2% inflation goal, despite the softening seen in the March inflation data released this week. Now here's the quote. He said, since December of 2021, core inflation has moved sideways with no apparent downward movement. So despite some encouraging news on a slowing in housing costs, core inflation does not show much improvement and remains far above our 2% inflation target. Well, that was the line, that was the comment that changed everything around. Markets were looking like they were going to have a pretty solid day. The market kind of factoring in this one more increase and then a pause and maybe a pivot later in the year to actually decreasing rates. Waller peeing all over that idea. Spooks the market. Market ends up down. There you have it, guys. That's the day. That's the week. It's a wrap. Everybody get out there and have a super awesome, great, fantastic weekend. Spend time with your family and your friends. Here in Vegas, it's going to be a gorgeous weekend. Temperatures near 80 degrees all weekend. Nice little breeze blowing, sunny, beautiful time to get out and about. Get outside. Winter is almost over. Spring is in the air, guys. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy your time. Get away from these markets and government and crazy crap we deal with all week. Relax. Recharge the batteries, just like I'm going to do. We'll be back again next week on Monday to bring you guys what to anticipate for the week. And we look forward to talking to you guys again on Monday. Until then, guys, have a great weekend. Thanks.